Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. A little bit of college hoops recruiting. Okay, so here is what you need to know about the world of college hoops. It's a very quiet time in recruiting, but it's about to pick up because keep in mind, most of these top players, their lists have been cut. And they're going to start visits basically once school starts. And all of you, you're either a fan of college football, you're a college student, whatever, students are returning to campus, games next week. What that means from a basketball perspective is that all of these high school players are going to start taking visits and going to start to commit. And so why I bring it up, why it matters today is because as long as he is uncommitted, the number one story in high school basketball recruiting is going to be Tyran Stokes. Number one high school player in America. We've told you the story plenty, but he is, of course, from the state of Kentucky, from the city of Louisville. He now plays at Sherman Oaks High School in Los Angeles, not far from where I live. He plays at Notre Dame High School, in Sherman Oaks, not far from where I live. And, he's the number one prospect in America. He is the guy that everybody wants. He is, I think he's really the only guy that's like that upper level dude that I think can step in and make an impact day one in college basketball the way that we expect Darren Peterson at Kansas, AJ Debonsa at BYU, Cam Boozer at Duke this coming year. The only guy next year who I think is in that class is Tyran Stokes. Well, I bring it up because Tyran Stokes has already taken a couple visits, Kansas, Louisville, and Kentucky, has a couple more set up, but he put out a very cryptic tweet over the last couple days. I just want to go ahead and discuss really quick. Producer Matt, can you pull that up for me if possible? If not, I should be able to do it myself. All right, let's see here. Oh, I found it. Look at that. The tweet is up. Tyran Stokes, number one player in America. This broke the internet, at least college basketball internet, on Tuesday night. I think it was Tuesday night, because all he tweeted out was 5 heart emojis, 2 red, 1 blue, 1 green, 1 white. What does it mean? What does it not mean? Oh, let's go ahead and break it down. Okay, so Tyran Stokes, what does it all mean? Well, we're all trying to figure it out, right? So I think it all means is that we're probably getting a top 5 list pretty soon, right? So I mentioned, like I said, has already visited Kansas, Louisville, Kentucky, and is expected to visit Gonzaga, maybe USC, and certainly Arkansas and Oregon as well. So 3 visits down, probably 3 to 4 visits to go, but maybe it's not quite as many visits because he's only got 5 hearts on that screen, which probably means he's cutting that list down to 5. Now, the interesting part becomes breaking down what each heart means, what it doesn't mean. By the way, I saw in the comments, everybody's asking Grok, like who's in, who's out, what does it mean, whatever. Here is what I perceive the hearts to mean. The first red one, or the second red one, but probably the first red one, I would say is for the hometown Louisville Cardinals. They got to visit. I don't think there's any scenario there is a top 5 without Louisville. The blue, I would say it's for the home state Kentucky Wildcats. Again, I don't see a scenario that Kentucky, which many believe was the leader coming out of Peach Jam, is not in the top 5. Green, well, he ain't visiting Michigan State. He ain't visiting North Texas. So it sounds like Oregon might get a final shot at him in his top 5, or at least a visit coming up. The second red, this is where the controversy comes in. Is it Arkansas? Is it Kansas? My guess is that it's Arkansas. And then the gray, is it Gonzaga? I think it's probably the Zags. And so what's interesting to me about this top 5 is a couple things. One, what stands out, you know what this list means? It means that one of the 3 schools that wears red, whether that is Arkansas, Louisville, or Kansas, what that means is that one of those 3 does not make the final 5. My guess is that the final 5 will not include Kansas. This is not official yet. I do not know. Nothing is confirmed. I do think there's a very good possibility that Kansas is probably not in that final 5. Reasons why, pretty straightforward. One, listen, I know that, shoe company recruiting isn't what it once was, isn't what it used to be, but I do think it's probably unlikely that Tyran Stokes ends up at a Adidas school. He played on the Nike circuit, blah, blah, blah. You don't need me to go through the history of the role that shoe companies play in recruiting. But at the same time, if there's one Adidas school, it's going to be Louisville. We'll talk about Louisville in a minute. But with Kansas, kind of just a weird time for that program. Bill Self, what is the future? How long is he going to be there for? When could he be out? If he has a disappointing year this year, would he retire after this year? And that would concern me if I was a parent or an advisor to the number one player in America. Do you want to commit to a place where the coach is on retirement watch? Now, to be clear, anything can happen with any of these coaches. And I know even Calipari is getting older, but Calipari ain't going anywhere. He's clearly revitalized being at Arkansas. So I think this probably means that Kansas is out. Now, as far as the other five, there's a couple interesting elements here. One, it's interesting that Oregon, which hasn't even gotten a visit yet, makes that final list. What that says to me, it says to me that Nike money, it ain't taking a backseat to nobody, right? I know we live in a rev share era. I know that everybody's supposed to stay in this cap, but I think it would be very easy to justify Nike giving an exorbitant, quote unquote, NIL deal to the number one high school player in America, who is going to be the number one pick in the 2027 NBA draft, who also, oh, by the way, is a very marketable type player. So Oregon's going to get a visit. The Gonzaga thing, I don't really know what to make of. He's obviously on the West Coast right now. Gonzaga, as you've probably heard, is a West Coast school. But I think they'll get a visit. Does that mean that he's committing there? I would find that one hard to believe. By the way, it's worth noting, I don't think Mark Few is going anywhere, but he's kind of been on retirement watch as well. So you have those two. I think the three that are most intriguing to me are Louisville, Kentucky, and Arkansas. With Louisville, listen, hometown school. We know what Louisville has to offer. And I'm a big Pat Kelsey guy. I believe in Pat Kelsey. I think he is going to be phenomenal for a very long time at Louisville, has proven he can recruit and evaluate at the highest level. Mikal Brown Jr., nobody thought Mikal Brown Jr. is going to be what he actually is. I mean, Mikal Brown Jr. might be a first-team All-American. He is going to be that good this year. So you have Mikal Brown Jr., I think Talon Kinney in that class of 2026, who is also a Kentucky native, is going to end up at Louisville. And so if that's the case, that's a nice little group that you have there. And again, it's the hometown school. And I do think it's worth noting the quote that Tyran Stokes' mom gave our buddy Jacob Polacek, where she said, yeah, we're from Louisville. We don't watch Kentucky games. So Louisville is going to be in the mix, I believe, right up until the end. Kentucky, listen, I know Pope hasn't landed that super, super, super elite high school player. Now, Kentucky fans always bring up the point. Jaden Quains is a former five-star, committed out of the portal. Braden Hawthorne's about a top 30 or so guy. He committed just a few months back. So it's not like Mark Pope hasn't landed anybody that isn't elite outside of the state of Kentucky, but his big high school recruiting wins are all Kentucky-based guys. It is Jasper Johnson. It is Malachi Moreno. And we will see if Tyran Stokes can be the next guy. I think Kentucky's going to be in until the end. As I said, it's worth noting to me that I find it very interesting that Tyran Stokes is a player that is from Kentucky. And then again, coming out of Peach Jam, it feels like Kentucky, many believe to be the leader. Finally, I'll just say this. I think the total wild card is Arkansas. And what's interesting about Arkansas, I don't know where Arkansas stands. And this is going to sound crazy. I don't even know at this point what John Calipari's stance on all of this stuff is. And what I mean by that is this, is that, listen, for years, we know the Cal reputation. He was the one and done guy. He was the guy that, went in, signed all the top high school players. He came in, and we know the quote. You come into your town, last minute, get the guy you wanted. That's not really who he's been at Arkansas or in the NIL era. I know people that know him that, he cautions about how to spend the money, not to just, yes, there are a lot of resources at Arkansas, but he's just not outbidding everybody for everyone in the portal and whatever. I think he's being smart with his money. I don't think he's overspending it. And I do think that if it becomes a bidding war type situation, I don't even know if John Calipari wants to get in those bidding wars anymore. Should note with Kentucky, by the way, I think we all kind of understand that it's very likely that they are going to have the most NIL money through rev share of anyone available. So we'll see what happens there. Remember that Matt Norlander report that Kentucky has more rev share money dedicated to basketball than just about anybody else. So we'll see what happens there. I think Arkansas is the wild card. Again, I don't even know how Coach Cal really feels about, spending big money on freshmen these days. Again, I always say, like, he's done this interesting rebrand. It almost reminds me of like the kid in high school that was a nerd that goes to college and changes how he dresses, and all of a sudden he's just a completely different person. That's kind of how I feel with Coach Cal.